Imagine a world with unlimited food, unlimited water, no predators, no disease, no threat of any kind. Now imagine that world ending in total extinction anyway. That is not a thought experiment. It actually happened, and it happened to a colony of mice that scientists watched die from something no test could ever detect. In the summer of 1968, a researcher named John Calhoun placed 8 mice inside an enclosure he had spent years designing. 4 males, 4 females. Every need met before it could even become a need. He called it Universe 25. Calhoun was not new to this. He had already run over 20 similar experiments with rats and mice, each one a small paradise with no scarcity and no escape. Every single time, he watched the same strange pattern unfold, and this final version was supposed to be the definitive one. The enclosure was 9 feet square, but it was not flat. Mesh tunnels connected stacked apartments along every wall, feeding into water bottles that never emptied, and food hoppers that never ran dry. Calhoun calculated the space could hold close to 4,000 mice comfortably. It never got anywhere near that number. For the first 100 days, almost nothing happened. The mice explored, they settled into territory, then the litters started arriving and the population began doubling roughly every 2 months. By day 315, more than 600 mice were climbing over each other for space, and this is where things started to break. In the wild, when a colony outgrows its territory, the extra mice simply leave and start somewhere new. But there was no somewhere new here. So young males with no territory and no purpose began pooling together in the center of the enclosure, doing nothing at all. Some absorbed attacks without ever fighting back. Others swung the opposite way, becoming hyper-aggressive and abandoning every courtship ritual the colony had followed until then. The females responded by retreating. Many climbed to the highest, most isolated nests and simply stopped engaging. The mothers who stayed exhausted themselves defending nests alone, since the males had stopped helping. Some abandoned their pups. Some forgot which pups were theirs. In parts of the colony, fewer than 1 in 20 newborns survived. Then came a generation Calhoun hadn't predicted. Mice who never fought, never mated, never engaged socially at all. They ate, slept, and groomed themselves for hours, their coats immaculate because they never touched conflict. He called them the beautiful ones, flawless on the outside, functionally extinct on the inside. By day 560, the population peaked at 2,200 and never rose again. The last successful birth happened on day 920. After that, nothing. The colony simply aged out, one animal at a time, until the final mouse died in May of 1973. Nearly 5 years after the experiment began, Calhoun wrote that the mice died 2 deaths. First, the death of the spirit. Only years later, the death of the body. Most people who cite this experiment stop there, with a simple lesson. Comfort kills. But that isn't what Calhoun actually concluded. In his own writing, he warned that for a creature as complex as a human being, this kind of collapse wasn't just possible, it was logical. Once the number of individuals capable of filling a meaningful role outgrew the number of roles that actually existed. Food was never the problem. Space was never the problem. What vanished from that paradise was purpose. And here's what almost never gets mentioned. Calhoun didn't spend the rest of his career predicting doom. He spent it searching for the fix. He believed the way forward wasn't more space, but more roles, more reasons, more things worth doing, what he called extending into conceptual space. The mice never got that chance. They simply ran out of reasons to keep going, long before their bodies gave up. We're not mice in a box, but every one of us is still asking the same question those mice never got to answer. What happens when everything you need is provided except a reason to use it?